Ah, hey, how's it going? Right on, right on. Well, welcome to the Neighborhood Bike Shop, and this is part 2 of my friend Paul's 1992 GT Avalanche groove tube rebuild. And I'm excited for it. As you're going to see in a second, I've cleaned up everything and it is ready to go. We are just getting ready to put it back together. So let's get this going. Rock and roll. All right, so I've spent some time cleaning the frame, and the frame is pretty much spotless. I mean, there are some things that can't be removed, like big deep scratches and stuff like that, but everything that could be removed has been removed. And it is slick and clean, bro. Ready for stuff to go back on. And I also did not show you guys what I was doing with all the componentry that I'd taken off of the bike, but I put it through the ultrasonic and then I scrubbed every centimeter of every piece. And if it could be taken apart, it was taken apart and cleaned and then reassembled. And I'll tell you what, it is a cool feeling to be getting ready to put these kinds of parts on a bike, man. I am excited. This bike is going to come together and just be absolutely beautiful, and it's going to perform really well. Now all I've got left is the chain that is still in the ultrasonic. That out and clean it up, and then I'm guessing tonight is the night. Yep, gonna be good, gonna be good. Anyhow, let's see what happens next. Rock and roll. Right on. Whoa! Just kicking the camera around and stuff. Right on. Anyhow, what I was gonna say is right on. So on every set of wheels that I do, even my standard tune, I go through and I make sure that the wheel is as true as it can be within reason, and that the spoke tension is reasonable on all the spokes, that the hub or cones are adjusted appropriately, and if they need lubing, that I lube them, and just all around go around and clean the whole thing. So what I'll first start doing is, I love doing this on my trimming stand because I can get it right where I need it. And I put rags below everything because I don't want everything in my station to get completely soaked with cleaner. Anyhow, I'll go through and I'll clean that, and I'll use like a toothbrush and a little scrubby pad that I have to kind of get in between the spokes. And then I will go back in and I will clean the hub specifically in the center and clean each spoke, and then finish up with a rim wipe. I'll probably end up doing a rim wipe 2 or 3 times on each wheel. And then to get the complete restoration look, I use a rubber enhancer. Whoa, I'm just kicking that stuff all over the place. Good times. Maybe I'll get a goal. Anyhow, I use this Hot Shine tire coating, and it just truly makes wheels look like they are brand new. And I haven't seen any interference with the brakes or anything like that. It's just worked really, really well for me. And it just makes tires look like they're brand new, like they were just put on. And that's what I want. I want my clients, when they pick up their bikes, to be just blown away, like they're getting a brand new bike. And hopefully when I'm done with it, it's better than brand new. Anyhow, I'm gonna go on and I'm gonna do this same thing to the rear wheel, but I'm not gonna bore you with all that, so we'll just jump to all the componentry and stuff like that that needs to go on the bike. So right on, here we go. Yeah, so the very first thing I'm gonna do in reassembling this entire bike, I'm just gonna, you don't have to start here, but I'm gonna start here, is I'm just gonna put the crankset back together and get the bottom bracket in. But I can do all of this right here, and I can kind of speed it up so it's like, you know what I mean. Anyhow, here we go. You know how to orient the main cog, or yeah, by this nubbin thing here. that's going to go behind the crank. So that tells you always where that chain ring fits on there, is when that nomad's right behind, right here, right there. That tells you how to orient the first chain ring. Anyhow, so back to the idea of making it go fast. Again, this one right here, there's like a nubbin right here. That goes behind the chain ring. That tells you how to orient it the other direction. And for this chain ring, they're running spacers on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and slap that spacer in there. And I'm just getting one started before I go to the rest, because it'll make it easier to do the rest. I'm not going to tighten it up all the way, but enough that I can move these around and put washers in their places. I'm going to try to set all washers in place first before I go. Okay. Okay. These on these. These on these. These. Now that one. Nice. That'll work. Now all I got to do is get them to just start threading. That's actually the first time I've ever tried to do it that way. It just kind of seemed like fun, so I did it. And most of this is now. There you go. And by the way, I did polish this after all this went into the ultrasonic, got scrubbed down. There's nothing in between any of the teeth, totally clean. And then I polished this. I actually polished all of them with the aluminum mag polish, that Mother's, and it made them look really nice. They're pretty dang shiny. Anyhow, on with it. This back chainring, the little chainring, has a spacer, and that's just to move it off the face of the cranks appropriately. And it's got a little nubbin on there, so I know that goes like that. And these are going to be that same kind of thing, where I'm going to be kind of floating washers in between. Should be easy. It looks nice, Here's one down, I guess. Be cool to have a drill, huh? Be like, maybe that's the noise I'll put over the top of it as I'm doing it. Okay, once I get everything to here, I just get it snug, and then I get my torque wrench and torque everything to 5 to 6 Newton meters of torque. Chunks of torquiness. One of my favorite tools, set to 5 torque. 5 torque. Nice. Nice. Boom, bada bing. Boom, bada bing. Now the cranks go on. All right, now we're gonna put in the bottom bracket, and I'm gonna share with you an old tip, or a tip that I got from an old timer of mine, a friend named Richard Anderson. We all called him Critter. this guy that's like 20 years older than me that we used to go mountain bike all the time together. And my bottom bracket was creaking and ticking one time. And I asked him, I said, hey, dude, do you know what this sound is? And he goes, yeah, I got a solution for it. Put Teflon tape on the threads of your bottom bracket and that will go away. And so I tried it and it totally works. It totally works. And it is like a secret that is just awesome. And so you put 1.5, sometimes 2 layers, depending on how loose it is in when you thread it in with your fingers before, just testing it. If it's really loose, you can probably get away with 2. If it's really tight, just go 1, get it thin. But yeah, once you get it on there, and of course wrapping it so that when you spin the threads, it follows and tracks what's going on with the threads. Oh, I hope I didn't put too much on there. I might have. We're gonna find out. We are gonna find out. Well, other way. So that means that, all right. Oh, sweet. I have to fast forward this section, huh? So the chain on this bike was the worst thing of the whole, it was the dirtiest part of the whole bike. It looked like it had been nothing but lubed and never cleaned for years upon years. Just kind of pulling out some stragglers. And so I've had it in the ultrasonic for 2 hours, stopping to scrub it on each side with a wire brush every half hour. And I've finally gotten it back to clean. Okay, I'm just going with, I know that that's probably supposed to be about 45 torque units, whatever. And all I go by is the feel of how tight it is and whether it feels like it's the right tightness to me. And that one does. Oh, this bottom bracket was weird too because it threaded the wrong way. Or like the long part was on the left side instead of being on the right side. Usually on the right side you'll get a just a cut like this. And I'm gonna fast forward to all. Perfect. Time to put on some cranks. And back to one of my favorite tool, this ratcheting 15. Just super nice. Okay, on these ones, they don't need to be crazy tight. Now, like I'd say 35 to 40, because you want to be able to get them back off, and it's square taper, so if they loosen up, you've got a little bit before you're in trouble. Nice. And to get it off, reverse it, comes off. Sweet. Okay, now I'm going to put on the seat because I want to grab onto the seat post and not the frame of the bike, and it also will lower it down. It'll lower it down so I can work on it easier. Sorry, man, I was spacing out. I'm thinking about dinner and not thinking about work. Putting a little bead of grease on the inside. And it doesn't have to be a super giant amount, just enough. And then I always try to slide the the seat post straight in instead of doing the left, right, left, right, left, right. Because sometimes there'll be a little hang lip on the seat clamp or on the seat top of the seat tube that scratches the crap out of your seat post clamp or out of your seat post. And who wants that, man? Who wants a scratched up seat post? Not me. All right, sweet. On to the next part. All right, so the next part, we're gonna put in the headset. But I need to grease up the bottom set of bearings. So I'm gonna tip the bike up. There we go. And while I'm here, just gonna put a bead of grease. And on this one, it's pretty cool. You can put more than you're supposed to on there because you're just gonna wipe it off out of the bottom, but still. I know, I'm a jerk. Okay, that looks good right there. I might end up fast forwarding through some of that. So now the next part is I'm gonna put the fork on. And I've cleaned everything all the way down to the race. And this bottom race, if I was to put this headset on a different bike, I'd pull that off. This is separate from the fork. But this one is designed for the bearings that it's going on. And because I know which way the bearings go on it, because I actually put them down there on it, I put them on one way. I thought, oh, does that really sit in the channel? Or this way, does that sit in the channel? And then also I test fit it. And I can tell already that's the right way. And I put the grease in here, so the bearing's just stuck in there, right? Cool, huh? Now I can take the seal that is like this bottom little sensitive ring that covers up the bearings that are kind of open around the bottom. And now I love the grease gun. It's fun. It's like your cake decorating or something. I know I'm goofy, but whatever. Anyhow, bearings, grease, headset, down we go. See? And now that I get it here to this point, this is when I test to see if I like the way that is rolling. I also do a visual inspection where I look up under here to see if everything's matching up good, and it is perfect on this. That little rubber gasket is covering the gap to the bearings just right. So I go to the next part, which is the hanger, and it lines right up the hanger, and it lines right up with a groove that's on the back side of this. And on top of that, I'm gonna put the retaining washer that also has a guide to go into that groove on there. And then the very top piece. This is where we'll get our preload on the bearings and the entire assembly. Lovely. And the headset's assembled. Of course, I'm gonna torque it and all that kind of stuff, but we're done for now. Okay, and next we're putting on the quill stem that also has a quill attachment to the stem itself. So it's a double-ended quill. I thought this was really interesting, and I have since shown this to several people and more experience than I am in the bike industry, and they had never seen it before either. So I think this is pretty cool, and it works actually pretty cool. So I'm just gonna show you how I put it in. Just for a little bit of corrosion resistance. A little grease in there. Make sure that it'll slide down. And then I'm gonna turn it in there a little bit so it gets that grease all the way around down in there. Because I'm going to wipe off any excess that's up there. And then I am turning it so the little ramp wedge nut on the quill is kind of turned so that the longest part of it is straight forward. And the only reason I'm doing that is because that's how it was when I took it apart. You know what I mean? Oh, and don't tighten it all the way down yet because you still have to put the stem on. And again, I am going to do just a quick of lube. And it's not so much to make it slippery, it's more to like kind of protect it and keep it from wearing out bad, getting rusty, fusing together. I don't know, any of those things. Loosen that sucker up a little more. And again, bear with me, this is my first time using this assembly. Oh, there's little marks on top of it that point. I'm guessing that I was totally right to line these things up together. Okay. Now this is gonna have to be adjusted again. Once the bars go on, I'm gonna have to loosen it up and retighten it. So getting it close enough by looking straight down the edge of the stem at one of the posts for the cantilever brakes. I'm just gonna tighten that up. Good, now we're on to the bars. Rock and roll. All right, now it's time for the bars. And again, I'm gonna adjust these again after I get all the levers and stuff on there. And most handlebars kind of have a marker or some markers on where they're supposed to go. This one has a bunch of little teeny lines, they're almost invisible, but I use those to line up for the center. So I'm looking at where they're coming out on the other side. So right there, and then going in to right there. So in between there and there. And I want these bolts to both have the same distance when they're closed up. So do one a little bit and then do the other one until you get them close and not tight, but just a little bit snug so that you can make sure that you're going the right way with everything. Once I get it there, I back it off about a quarter turn and I rotate the bars without moving them either way to where I think it'll be about. So when I'm putting on the bars, most bars have a little bit of sweep. And so as I'm looking at it from this way, I can see that I want that sweep, the flat plane of that sweep to equal the main frame. So that's kind of what I'm using to line it up. That's probably not a very good explanation for you guys, but it's gonna have to do because it's all I got. I'll get those torqued. Sweet, on to the next thing. Woo! Okay, now we're on to some of the fun stuff. We're going and just placing these levers. Oh, by the way, these levers went through the ultrasonic and then got cleaned out really well. Like after they come out, I shift them a bunch of times and it cleans out the little notches where goo builds up in them. And then I also put Tri-Flow in them a bunch of times and I shifted it with that in there. And I'll add more Tri-Flow today or when I'm done with the assembly after I'm tuning the whole thing. But there's a lot of work that went on to these before you even see them. Nice. Now, the next thing is I was trying to decide between these grips. And I think I'm gonna go with these because I think, well, these are literally from the era. They're from the age, the 90s. And I think they're pretty cool looking. They don't have a hole on the end, so I would have to create one, but I know how to do that. And I think they're the ones I'm going to go with. So yeah, I'm going to create a hole on the end of these and I'll be right back. Sweet. Cut a couple holes and some grips. I'm going to put them on, and I do that by using denatured rubbing alcohol. Squirt some inside. Maybe I put too much, I don't know. And then get your grip on fairly quickly because they do try to set. And because I am putting bar ends on here and I want them perfect, I'm going to bring the bar end into the game. That works for me, man. That works for me. Sweet. And when I'm putting the bar ends on, I'm making them parallel to the stem. And that doesn't mean that's where they're going to live. It just means that's where I'm starting, you know? And I'm not tightening that up completely because I'm still probably adjusting some stuff a little bit. And on to the other one. Zip, zip. Now I'm just kind of making these parallel to each other. And like I said, I'm not tightening it all the way down. I'm just getting it snug so I can get this grip in place where I want it. Sweet. Nice. Clean. Perfect. Sometimes you have to shift the lever to get it out of the way so that you can get access to the anchoring bolt. And on the location of these, I'm just going from like natural memory of like how far down I think they will be. And again, all of this is going to get adjusted. Then I'm just going to make this one match that one. All right, that gets us started on stuff. Cool. Now we get ready to do some of the really fun stuff. Woo! All right, little alcohol and a rubber hammer. Squirty, squirty. Squirty, squirty. Bar end plug. Done. Bar end plug. Done. Time to move on. Rock and roll. All right. Now the next thing we're going to do is put on the brakes and then get the wheels on and make sure that everything's aligned before I start putting derailleurs and all that kind of stuff on. Anyhow, so I'm going to put on the brakes. A little bit of grease on the posts. My brake assembly. And this brake caliper did go through the ultrasonic and got cleaned really, really well. Now I'm just working in some of that grease. Go kicking the camera again. Okay, go fast forward. Sweet. Onto the front. Let's put on the front brakes. A little grease, like always. Sweet. Time for one of my favorite parts, putting the wheels on for the very first time. This is gonna be awesome. You start to really feel what the bike's gonna be all about, man. At least I do. This bike is going together really smoothly. It really hasn't been fighting me in any kind of way. Sweet. Nice. Sweet. Bob's your uncle. Let's do some derailleur things. So next I'm going to take a tool called a DAG. And it's Derailleur Alignment Guide. There's a couple different names that they go by. And this, yes, this is an old style one, but it works fine for me. And what it does is it measures the distance that the rim is in different locations, telling you whether that is aligned or whether that is not aligned. And in theory, you will get the exact same reading all the way around the rim. Okay, so I can already tell that there's a bit of a bend this way. And I don't want to dink with this derailleur too much. I don't know what this hanger's been through. And on older bikes, there's completely the chance that things have been aligned before, making them weak. I want to double check that. Close. And when you're within a centimeter or two, it's close enough in my opinion. But when you're out by like 3-4 centimeters in any location, it will not shift very well. Sweet, there we go. Now the rear derailleur and the front derailleur can all go on, and we can start wiring things up. Rock and roll. Let's do this. All right. Putting on the rear derailleur. Little grease, as always. If you know what I'm saying. And I think you do. And on like butter. Awesome. Onto the front derailleur. Little grease. Not a lot, just a little. Get it started. Okay, I've got it down so that the cage, when I push it out this way, the gap right here is only about 2 to 3 millimeters. That's where I'm going to start with. I may have to change it from there because I don't know exactly how it's going to shift. And I'm also lining up the interior cage to be parallel with cogs. Sweet. Let's wire some stuff. So right on. We got a lot done today. There's several things that need to be done, but I would say we knocked out probably 85% of the reassembly in this video, or in this video so far. I'm gonna call it good for a night and pick it up in the morning, get it finished off tomorrow, and hopefully upload it in the next day or so. Anyhow, it's turning out great. It's going together really, really easily, and I'm hoping that some of this information is helping some of you. If not, put it in the comments. Let me know what I need to be doing that I'm not doing, or, you know, if I'm doing something good, let me know. You know what I mean? Okay, right on, and before you know it, it'll be morning, like this fast. Ah, just like that, we're back. Anyhow, after a good night's sleep, that's a huge lie. I was up all night. My mouth wouldn't close. I got a hole in my tooth. Long story. You don't need to hear about it. Anyhow, after a shitty night's sleep, I'm back to finish off this GT Avalanche that is really turning out really good. I've swapped out brand new cables into the assembly, and I've already cut my cable housings that need to be going on, and so I'm just going to kind of pull you in and show you some of the stuff I'm going to do and show you how I do it. So let's do this. So you might say, dude, how do you know how long you should make your cables? So when you cut them, you don't cut them the wrong length and have to cut them over and over and over and over again. Well, the first thing that I do is that when I disassembled this bike, I kept the cables, or the cable housings, so that I could get a guesstimate of the length that they needed to be. Now, I don't do it completely off of that. Like, I didn't just go all willy-nilly and go cut cables after I, saw how long the old ones were. No, I still like to fit my cables. I want them to kind of look a certain way and kind of flow out of the front in a certain way. And so I like to sneak up on that. So I always cut my cables a little bit long, probably an inch or two long, with the idea that I'm going to end up sneaking up on the appropriate length of cable housings. When it comes to the ferrules, the caps that go on the ends, of the housing, I have a large collection of different colors and different styles and stuff like that, but the main underlying theme is I like metal ferrules. I don't like plastic ferrules. Plastic ferrules are what you find on Walmart bikes, and there's a reason they're on Walmart bikes, because they're the very cheapest thing you can possibly put on and perform the very worst out of all of them. Now, do they work? Yeah, for the most part they do work, but at the same time, anytime you've ever taken apart, if you've ever taken apart an assembly on a bike like that, and it's not, the braking's not working right, and then you go into the cable housings and it's just all twisted up, and the end of the cable housing, the wires are all poking out, maybe even going all the way through the plastic ferrule. Yeah, that's why. Okay, now that I've unbraided these guys, the very first one I'm going to do is the rear brake, because it's going to be setting the entire theme for this groove tube assembly, and I'm going to try to find a way to give you a shot of that, but I'm going to do it in flow. So there you go. In other words, I'm just going to put it on. Now these Shimano Dior XT pods that are being used right here are a different version than I have ever seen in my life. Oh, by the way, I'm just kind of flooding the entire length of the housing with tri-flow. And I have taken a pick and like kind of cleared out the way, and if there's any metal in the way, I shave it back. You know, you have to prep the ends of these. You can't always just cut them and think that you're gonna get it on there. Anyhow, so I get that going on there, and I put it through the ferrule first, and then I put it into the housing second, and then I put the ferrule over the housing. And the reason I do that is because you could put the ferrule on the housing and then try to thread them at the same time, but that doesn't mean you're going to get a good alignment. And the ends of these cables are, you know, little bits that like to fray apart and kind of move off to the side. Anyhow, back to these pods. They have these awesome rubber covers on them that I haven't seen on any other bike, but you have to pull them back to really get this stuff set up the way I want it. Now, kind of locking these brakes in at a very short point, so they still got a lot of room to adjust, but I'm also getting the slots, the cable slots, not aligned with each other. I'm making them so that there's no way it can come out. It's just kind of a safety precaution to make sure that that cable doesn't dislodge in any kind of way. And then that thing goes up all snug over the top of it. So nice, so nice. Okay, here's the big one. We've got this groove tube situation where I've got to be going into a three-way group kind of assembly. And I was wondering whether, because there's no receptors for ferrules, right? There's no place for these metal ends, so I don't know whether it's going to need them or not. So we may have to take this off. And also on the underside, under here, there's like 3 holes, like 1, 2, 3 up in there, and the brake one is the middle one. Right now I am just test fitting this. I am probably going to be taking it apart, but I would way rather test fit things and have it go together the right way than, you know, try to jump the gun and do it wrong. Doing it wrong just means you're going to do it again. Okay, there's the brake cable housing all the way. Sorry. All the way through there. I wonder if I can get that up at an angle where you can actually see what's going on. Maybe. That'll work. Let's give it a try. Okay, the next one that's going to be going in to the 3-way that I'm assembling right now, or just partially assembling, is going to be the rear derailleur shifter, which I'm putting on the right side because it comes out a hole on the right end back here and drops down. The rear seat stay, the rear right seat stay. Again, Earl. You know, doing this kind of stuff on like this point on the bikes when they're almost done and the last thing I'm doing is cable routing, it's kind of like, it reminds me of like fly fishing. Like it's super relaxing and very, very satisfying. That's 2 in there. I don't think 3 of those is gonna work. I wonder if this is exclusively with no ferrules on the end, like none of these on the ends of these when you go into this location. because that thing is full now. Yeah, there's no way. Yeah, there's no way. I can just tell. I mean, it's full with just those ones. So, yeah, no. See, and that's part of doing bikes. I mean, you have to learn. Stuff happens, and it doesn't always work exactly the way that you think it's gonna. So, back on it. Other thing I was thinking about last night was putting tubing over the cable where it's exposed in this groove on the underside, like this kind of clear kind of tubing. I was toying with the idea of enclosing all of it right there, but I think I'm gonna leave that alone to start with. Enclose certain sections on the back, and then if I have enough, go back and enclose it all. It just depends on how much I have. All right. Oh, I was mounting it up European style. That's pretty funny. If you don't know what I mean by European style, that means the brake on the left side and the rear brake on the left side and the front brake on the right side. And I do have several of my bikes. Ziggy Stardust is mounted up European. I call it motocross style because that's how a motorcycle is. It's got the brake, the rear brake, or the front brake is on the right side because the clutch is on the left side. You got the throttle on the other side. If you think about it, and bicycles were or motorcycles came from bicycles. I don't know. That's interesting thought. Interesting. Okay. We're gonna go both sides to center. See how that looked. Don't worry. Oh, I wonder. Dude. I'm not giving up on it yet. I think it still might be possible, so we're gonna try again. I think I was just not visually processing what was happening on the inside of this completely. But that's all right. It kept me from mounting it up moto style and taking apart and putting bikes back together over and over and over. It gets you good at it. That's what I hear. Okay, and shifty. Oh, so on my last video, I was playing a band called Morphine in the background, and they're a really old, obscure, like indie band that's just like this 3-piece band that has a guy on drums, a guy on a bass guitar, and a guy on a saxophone. And they play this just really chill music, right? And I had it on in the background. I hadn't had any problems with stuff like that in the past. And I loaded it up and it got flagged. It said, you're not in trouble, but you can't do that, or your video won't show in certain countries. And I thought, oh, all right, it's fine with me. Anyhow, now, I don't know, you probably can't even hear what I'm listening to in the background. Right now I'm listening to the Damn Dirty Apes. One of my buddies, Jody Huck, the man, the myth, the legend. He's the lead singer of this band. And a really cool guy to boot. And he allows me to use their music if I want to in my videos. So that's really, really nice of him. Like, just amazingly nice. I have the coolest friends, dude. I'm telling you. I think that just people in the bike industry that are cyclists are cool. I'm definitely biased, but I think there's people out there that would back me up. Yeah, so lining up the cable housings on this thing has been a really, really strange situation. This bike has been the most bizarre cable routed bike, other than the internal like cable routed bikes nowadays, which are also just a nightmare in my opinion. There we go. Anyhow, the routing of this thing was just bizarre. I had never ever seen anything like it in the mountain bike world. Nice. 3 ferrules, 3 housings, all tucked in like they're in a bed. Sweet. We can come on back down. All right. Now, I want to throw on my front assembly and get that as close as I can get it. Oh, so funny story. I was getting ready to go to bed last night, but I was checking stuff on this cable and I was flipping the bike upside down and stuff. And right here, there's a guide right here for the front brake noodle, right? But it's also got this inserts piece that's a little metal piece that's oblong shaped, that's teeny, and I flipped it upside down and then went on with my night, and then like hours later realized I had flipped upside down and was like, oh no. Because you can't fake it. There's nothing that will replace this. This is like an original old school part. There's nothing that can replace this. So I ended up looking for it all over the floor, and I just kind of like backtracked what I had done and where I thought it might have gone, and I found it. It was kind of cool, so I found it. Then I put it in there, and I got to doing my same thing again, working on the bike a little bit more because I can't stop, and I lost it again. I dropped it again, and again, just luckily, out of luck, it was totally way further away this time, but I found it again, and I was pretty amazed. It was cool. Okay, anyhow, on this next thing, normally they would run for the front brake on this. For the front brake on this, they would have it come around and just go into a ferrule right there and go around to the brake, right? Like that. But I don't like that. You don't get a good, clean kind of, you don't get a clean sweep of it, and it doesn't go around the corner good, and it doesn't slide good, and it doesn't work good. So I've come up with better ways to do it. So instead of just kind of hooking it in the old school way, I use a noodle at the end going into the holder for the center pole brake. So what I mean by that is I'll take this brake noodle right here and it will set into the adapter for the center pole. And if you look at it, the very end of this noodle I've cut off, so it's not the full length, it's about half the length, and that's because this thing is only half the depth, so that's why I did that. And just for giggles, I'm going to put it in the outward. Down through there. And you'll see very quickly how I can decide how much cable I want. That's way too much cable. It's like, whoa. What was that? Whoa. So, I'm going to cut about 2 inches off of it. That was a nice cut. I know there's a ferrule already in there. And I want to sneak up on this one too. I don't want to get there way too quickly. Okay, it is seated in there. Pabst Blue Ribbon. Better. Now you can start to see what I'm talking about, how it goes in smoother. You just get a much smoother cable length out of it. I think I can go even shorter. I think we can go another inch shorter. Making sure that ferrule is seated appropriately. Because I think we're on the final iteration. A little oil in there. And piece. Yeah, so this is just like my hobby. Like I build bikes in my spare time and for fun. And I ride bikes a lot. I used to ride a lot more, but I had some serious medical stuff go down over the last little while that has kind of taken me out of play, man. Okay, I like it. I want to go inboard. Anyhow, so I'm trying to get my medical stuff taken care of so I can get healthy again and go ride and do the things that I like to do that I normally do, which is ride a lot. I know it doesn't mean anything to you guys, but I am currently like 50 pounds heavier than I was a year ago. You know, medical stuff, oh, those are perfect. That's nice. I don't know if you can tell from there. These cross about the same distance on either side, so when you're looking at it from up here, everything's super balanced. Now, what are you dangling out? Oh, you're over like that. So those wind up going like that. Yeah, I think that's gonna work good. So, on to the next part. All right, so now I'm gonna put on these front brakes. The very first thing I'm gonna do, after I ran the cable, you guys just saw me run this cable down through the center, and I'm gonna put on this piece of this carrier. It's called a straddle cable, and it's got an assembly where pretty straightforward. I have not seen it before, but it looks like it, in theory, it works really well. So you'll be seeing me doing it for my first time too. It goes all the way through that guy, like that. Oh, I don't like that direction. I don't like that direction at all. I want to do it the other way, so we get a cleaner face out. Yeah, buddy. That's the way to do that, right there. All right, so take two. I'm gonna put this right through here and pull it taut, as it were. And then get this other lever over here in the end of the cable and slide it down through its clamp location. Ah, nice. Okay, so I'm gonna need a 10 timeout. Okay, time back in. Gotta get the right wrench. Oh, oops. Pardon me. Like that. That's slot. Go through there. Okay, now I'm positioning these. I basically want a 45 degree on the cable, and I also am going to be moving this up to right about where the headset bearing is, so I want to see where that is, but I'm going to tighten this one first. I think that's an 8. This is an 8. This is 10. Okay. I want this cable and this cable to both be about the same length and to match up just about at the bottom headset bearing. Oh, did you hear it settle in? Okay, we're gonna have to take more out. These brakes weren't the easiest to do. I'm not gonna lie to you. They're kind of difficult to do, but once you understand what they're doing, they're not that bad. So what happened is when I tightened it up, the last time I pulled on it, it hadn't been seated completely. Now it's seated completely. I just don't have enough tug on this side. That's all right, I'll adjust that tug later. You guys don't need to be witness to that. All this really needs is to get cut off and then move on to the rear brake. And I usually leave about 3 or 4 inches until I know exactly what I'm doing with the end, how I'm going to hide it, conceal it, hook it on something, or whether I'm just going to cut it off clean and put a ferrule on it, a little crimp, and okay, on to the next one. Right, now we're going to put on the rear brakes. As I was talking a little bit earlier in this video, was that this was a kind of complex cable routing situation, and it is. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. For the time being, though, I'm going to make it simple, straightforward, and as clean as I can to just make it go by quickly. So I'm going to pull this out of here. But before I get going, because it goes on top of other things, this is a piece right here that guides the top pole front derailleur around the seat tube at this point. Clips on, just like that. Then we have a U-brake that has a straddle cable that goes around the seat post. And that's going to take a screwdriver that I thought I had sitting right here. All right, skipping forward, and finding it. Now, when I first saw this, I wasn't sure what the condition of this bracket was going to be. I was worried about it breaking like in half when I went to pull it off of this situation, but it turned out to be much more stable than what I thought, which is cool, very cool, in fact. Oh no, did you really? Yeah, that's right, it did, it fell out. Okay, time out, times. All right, time's back in. I found it. It's a teeny bolt, but when you lose little stuff like that, man, just stop what you're doing. Find it and move on, unless you feel confident about where it went. And I was not confident about where it went right now. So I am going to keep one finger over the end of it and hope that everything lines up and actually takes bite. And it has, or feels like it has. Yes, it has. Okay, I'm not exactly positive about where I want this yet, but my first instinct is as low as possible to create the best angle on this that I can. And the angle on this is going to be dictated by that lower arm and this crossover arm being bolted in up here. So for the time being, and not knowing any better, I am just going to tighten that up. Right there. And now I got to show you something that I've been talking about to a couple people like that have videos or channels like this. and people that approach this specific situation in a certain way, and I've reversed it and have found what I feel like is a better way. So I'm going to show you what that is, and then maybe you can give me some feedback in the back or in the comments down below. And it has to do with this. Okay. It's a straddle cable hanger saddle. A straddle cable hanger saddle. Yeah. So anyhow, most of the time on the lower side where a cable hooks into it, a loop of cable hooks into it, there is also the location for the wire that this is connecting to that's going through it. So you end up having the wire you're trying to crimp down in the same space as the wire you're trying to straddle. And it just didn't make sense to my brain. I don't know why. So I flip it over and I make it so that the wire, the main guide wire that is pulling everything, goes through on the top where it says Shimano on it. And then you flip it over on the bottom, and that's where the hook is that you hook into the straddle cable for. And that makes it a lot more cleaner, and it makes it a super way easier to adjust. So I don't know why more people don't do this. It's crazy. But the truth is, the opposite is the way they came on bikes. Like, they came on bikes in the more messed up configuration. So I don't know why. Anyhow, my point is this is my brake cable. And this straddle cable saddle goes through on this side. I tighten it up just a little bit so it's not like just falling off. And then I'm just going to kind of set it up into this area, knowing that somewhere in here is going to be the right one. But I also know it's not going to be past the seat tube. So I'm going to cut it off. Because having all that extra, you just don't need it. But you don't want it to fall off either. So tighten it up sort of good. So we've got this thing on. It's hooked onto there. I need to get this through this connector right here. This might take a second, and you probably won't want to launch it, but what I'm doing is I'm taking and creating a collapsed caliper so that I can work on this in a relaxed position. As it were. As it were, sir. Oh. Oh. It's like a game show trick. Get it lined up and get the light bolts for my threads. Did we? Ah ha ha! Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Okay, now that I've got the straddle cable through the anchor bolt on the U-bolt brake assembly, or the U-brake assembly, I am going to, just for shits and giggles, hook up that, and because of the way I did it, it's super easy, and then undo my snugged up caliper configuration so I can put a little weight on it. Okay, all right. There's a little bit of weight on there. Now, oh, see how that popped out? Hold on. Now, I can pull in a little bit of cable without even having to do anything really that crazy on the whole thing. Anchor that down. Well, and hook on that straddle. Well, I can take way more than that. And we're not worried about angles on this type of assembly. On the front, on the cantilever brakes, you totally have to get the right angles. It has to be right, or it won't work. It just won't work. Okay, hang on. Okay, I think that's way more power. I gotta move this further up inboard, like right there. See how I'm pulling on it? Further up into there. Now, there's a reason I approach it this way, and that's because I can take a marker and on the cable housing itself, I can mark where it was and then slide it back a ways and know about how far away I am from what I just was. And because of the way these are set up, you can do it without any pressure on it. Like, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be under tension, under spring, or anything like that. Especially because I'm running the cable the way that I'm running it. Okay. We're going to go, I had a black mark right here. I'm going to go up past that black mark. I'm going to go substantial a bit. I'm going to go like almost a half inch, 3/8 of an inch of distance. And when I tighten these up, I try to tighten them up so that the cable is straight below the saddle. And the only way you can do that is by holding it on both sides. And to make it the right direction. Oh gosh. So even then, I was putting the upside down, doing all the stuff, but I still got everything, and it was better. We're happy. Also happy. Okay, here shows the other quick release option on this. By releasing this quick release on this U-brake, God, this is turning into a U-brake tutorial. Collapsing that, I get it hooked into the saddle of the straddle cable carrying saddle. Oh geez. And once I have that hooked in there, then I have pressure on it. I can get it hooked in on here, and hopefully I can start getting an idea of brake pull. Okay, now I have an idea of where I need to go. This needs to move up like an inch, but I don't want to go quite that far, so I'm going to make another mark where I'm starting from and where I'm going to. Because nothing's going to have pressure on it while I'm tightening it down. We don't need that kind of hassle. And I might as well hold the class and calipers. There we go. 10, 10. It's not. Selecting location. See, that's what I like about doing it this way, is instead of you being all stressed while you're under pressure, trying to do the things that I'm doing right now, while it's under load, like under spring, is just insane. All right. Okay, closer up that way. We're disconnected from that one. right there so that we can get hooked in. Ooh, is that too far? That's too far. All right, so we know it's not there. We have to go back a little bit. It won't even hook. But luckily, that is literally just that much away. Okay. Hook you. So close. I think that's going to be the closest, so. Now I just have to release it just a little bit more. Alright, so hooked. No hooked. Alright, so that means that I must get more play. I think I'm going to take this play out of this one. The idea is I'm not taking all of my adjustment out of just one location, but I do want it to be very tight, like where that was just barely put on, or barely, I was just barely able to put it on there, is what I want when it comes to my brake response. I really want the rear brakes to pull tight that. I might even be able to go a little bit tighter. Probably a good idea. So I'm going to lock off the brakes again, get past the stem. So I want to do this down. 1, 2, 1. There we go. That's quite tight. Oh, you know the saddle with the strap puller. There. This is working. Ooh, that's nice, right there. And that's pulled out here. All right, system. Like everything, tighter. And that. Do it when it doesn't fit. So you go back a little bit. And it's fine. Tight. And the way I'm holding it with this wrench on the underside, with the wire in my palm, being able to see it from this side, it allows me to really control the location of the wire and how tight the bolts are getting. All right. Next, I want to cut that cable housing off. Okay, so I want the crimp on the cable to be about an inch past here, and that means that so people can have some adjustment. It's not just the end of the world right out of the gate. So I'm going to cut it off about there. And I'm going to take a cool colored crimp like this and crimp it on. Now, that detail is on the top. You can read the Shimano. You get the color pop of the crimp on the end of the cable. And all of that goes back together very, very nicely. Oh, and that's great tension right at the lever. That is a job perfectly done. Rock and roll. On to the next stuff. Right, so anyhow, I know the brakes took quite a while, but if you look at this assembly, you'll see why it took a while to get it right. You want it to work right and to interact with the other parts around it appropriately. And so that's the next thing that we're doing right here. We're setting up the front derailleur and the rear derailleur and getting them adjusted. So first off this is the front derailleur that comes out of that groove tube location up here, slips around, down and through the front derailleur pinch bolt and around this crazy little saddle unit here. And I want to make sure it's not hooked up on anything. And from there, it is as simple as just tightening it up. Okay, front derailleur done. Time for the rear. Same kind of cable routing situation where I'm taking the cable and routing it down through the brake boss, which is an interesting routing, and then into my eyelet, and of course my little bit of housing that it needs to go through, some oil, like I said, I put the ferrule on first, go through the housing, drop on the second ferrule, slide that through there. Oops. Drop the bolt, drop the bolt. Huh. Time out. All right, so anyhow, what I wanted to show you is you have to get this cable in the right location to make this work correctly. Once you get it into the right location, seated so that it's covering the cable, I tighten it down just a little teeny tiny bit, not enough to impede it from sliding as I get that into that hook and this into this hook, and do a bit of a tug on it. Then I'll get it anchored fairly well. And of course, I've already turned this barrel adjuster all the way in, and from there it's just a matter of tuning this thing up. So boom, let's knock this thing out, get it done, get the pedals on it, and get this bike off to the client. All right, now to wrap this thing up, just got a few little minor things to do. Gotta cut some cable. I usually leave about 1.5 inches on the rear derailleur. And this front derailleur is an unusual location, but I am going to also leave about 1.5 inches on it. From there, I'm going to get a couple crimps. And I'm using the cool blue anodized crimps for this. Just kind of getting it in a position where I can get on it, get down on it. Sweet. Now, one of the very last things that needs to go on are these caps on the cranks. There's one. And I will tighten it up a little bit more with a spanner. You don't want to, they're just made out of plastic, so, you know, you don't want to go crazy on them. And we'll throw our pedals on. I love how modern pedals have an Allen wrench in them. I think that that is just glorious. And for the second pedal, okay, and now the final thing I need to do is put the chain on the bike and then just run it through a regular tune-up. You know, just do those micro adjustments and get done. So, I'm gonna do that stuff next. All right, so I'm putting the chain on. Got my MasterLink tool. And I go through the front derailleur. Oh, these are fun. Through the front derailleur. And hanging off to keep it from sliding past. Over the big cog. Make sure the derailleur is in the right location. Thread it. Take the master clip. And that chain is not short enough. I need to take one link off of it. So I'm not going to pause that. I'm just going to make it speed up through it. So it is what it is. I must admit, this chain breaker, just a standard Park Tool CT5, has been my favorite chain breaker forever. And it's just, it always works, just works. And she goes on. Okay. Yeah, that's a good sign. Sweet. Okay, just a little adjustment on, just a little teeny adjustment on the front derailleur, and it should be good to go. Should be ready to rock and roll. Anyhow, I'll give you a once around on the bike now that it's done, and just kind of give you an overview of what I did. Cool. That was fun. All right. Paul's 1992 GT Avalanche with the wicked groove tube assembly on it is done. Fully tuned, fully restored, and I think it came out magnificent. One of the new things is the new grips. We changed out from the old grips that were the originals. Went completely through every single spoke on this bike. Sweet. It even has this sweet GT saddle. It's a leather saddle, so it gets treated with, you know, the mink oil. And then this is that complex area that I was talking about. Also the area where I showed you in the video how to swap this so that this interface is on one side and this interface is on the other side. Makes them a million times easier to adjust and make right. And I think looks cleaner. That groove tube exit. And then the front derailleur coming around here, down to the front. The rear derailleur coming out and zipping all the way down the chainstay. Again, every single spoke, everything was just completely cleaned and polished, if polishable. Even the tires look like new. So, right on. That's that episode of the Neighborhood Bike Shop. I hope you enjoyed it. It really was a way more work than it probably looked like. I know this is a super long episode, but that's just how it is. That's how long it takes. And for every minute that you guys saw on video, guaranteed I spent 5 times that much in the background just trying to put it together. Oh, geez. Anyhow, love you guys. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.